And yet another very wonderful morning out there to all of you, my dear friends. We left off in Jeremiah 32, where Jeremiah has bought a plot of land in order to signify to the Jews that they will all be restored, as well as their brethren, the other tribes. They'll all come back into the land, especially pointing to these last days whenever Christ comes back. But that is where we pick up right here, Jeremiah 33. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah the second time, while he was yet shut up in the court of the prison, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the maker thereof, the Lord that formed it, to establish it. The Lord is his name. Call unto me, and I will answer thee, and show thee great and mighty things, which thou knowest not. For thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, concerning the houses of this city, and concerning the houses of the kings of Judah, which are thrown down by the mounts and by the sword, the mounts being siege towers and such. They come to fight with the Chaldeans, but it is to fill them with the dead bodies of men. Now we're going to analyze just a little for a few seconds on that verse right there. That can throw you off. They come to fight with the Chaldeans, but it is to fill them with the dead bodies of men, whom I have slain in mine anger and in my fury, and for all whose wickedness I have hid my face from this city. Now, in order to contextualize this, we have to remember what's being said, and concerning the houses of the kings of Judah, like the palaces even, which are thrown down by the mounts, they, the Jews, the defenders of such houses, come forward to fight with the Chaldeans, it says, who burst into the city through the thrown down houses. Okay, so they're pillaging and leaving it desolate as they go. But all the effect that they produce is to fill them, the houses, with their own dead bodies. The Jews, you can't win. That's what's being said. Behold, I will bring yet health and cure, and I will cure them, and will reveal unto them the abundance of peace and truth. And I will cause the captivity of Judah and the captivity of Israel to return, and will build them as at the first. And I will cleanse them from all their iniquity, whereby they have sinned against me, and I will pardon all their iniquities, whereby they have sinned, and whereby they have transgressed against me. And it shall be to me a name of joy, a praise, and an honor, before all the nations of the earth, which shall hear all the good that I do unto them. And they shall fear and tremble for all the goodness and for all the prosperity that I procure unto it. Now this is quite the impactful verse right here. It says, and when God starts to do and bless them so much that they'll actually begin to fear and tremble for all the goodness and for all the prosperity that they'll gain from him. They'll fear and tremble, not with a slavish but filial fear, as a child to a parent, like a family type of situation, which is consistent with joy and gladness, and which fear will be influenced not by the terrors of the law, but by the goodness of God, being of the same nature with the fear of the converted Jews at the latter day, who will fear the Lord and his goodness. It has a feeling of unworthiness on the part of the child. And that's pretty much, I'm guessing every one of us will probably have that same kind of feeling whenever we receive our heavenly rewards and just to enter into heaven. It's just a feeling of unworthiness on our part. So it will cause, it's almost like a dog that doesn't understand why he's being fed so well whenever he's, done so much wickedness and he's been just a wretch. And all of a sudden, he's being treated very well. He's let in the house. He can jump on the couch, and he's scared to death to do it. Thus saith the Lord again, there shall be hurt in this place, which ye say shall be desolate, without man and without beast, even in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, that are desolate, without man and without inhabitant and without beast. So God's saying, where this place is so desolate, you're going to start hearing the voice of joy, and the voice of gladness, and the voice of the bridegroom, and the voice of the bride, and the voice of them that say, Praise the Lord of hosts, for the Lord is good, for his mercy endureth forever. And of them that shall bring the sacrifice of praise into the house of the Lord, for I will cause to return the captivity of the land, as at the first, saith the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, again, in this place which is desolate, without man and without beast, and in all the cities thereof shall a habitation of shepherds causing their flocks to lie down, in the cities of the mountains, and the cities of the vale, and in the cities of the south, and in the land of Benjamin, and in the places about Jerusalem, and in the cities of Judah, shall the flocks pass again under the hands of him that telleth them, saith the Lord. Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will perform that good thing which I have promised unto the house of Israel and to the house of Judah. In those days and at that time will I cause the branch of righteousness to grow up unto David, and he shall execute judgment and righteousness in the land. Of course, this is speaking of Christ. In those days shall Judah be saved, and Jerusalem shall dwell safely. And this is the name wherewith she shall be called, the Lord our righteousness. For thus saith the Lord, David shall never want a man to sit upon the throne of the house of Israel. Now this is quite startling, because after the captivity, after they're taken into Babylon, no other seed of David has sat upon the throne of Israel. It's always been Gentile kings or whatever, but they were cut off at that time. No more allowed to have a seed of Israel until Christ comes back. Neither shall the priests, the Levites, want a man before me to offer burnt offerings, meaning that they're always going to have these. They're always going to have them. And the previous verse is indicating that Christ will forever sit upon the throne of David. And to kindle meat offerings, and to do sacrifice continually. And the word of the Lord came unto Jeremiah, saying, now this is talking about the period of the millennial reign. So we need to remember how this is not speaking of in the eternal New Jerusalem, but Jerusalem on earth, Christ ruling over it for 1,000 years down here. So just keep that in mind whenever it's speaking on these offerings and the priest making sacrifices, as has thrown many off, like whenever Ezekiel also speaks about how these sacrifices would be brought back. Those sin offerings would in this glorious time become things of the past, no more need of them, yet thank offerings are expressly accepted from abolition. And in Jeremiah 31:14, a special latter-day promise is given to the priest. Moreover, Ezekiel, who repeats the prophecy of the new spiritual covenant, gives an elaborate sketch of a new temple with a sacrificial system. Now, once again, these sacrifices will be brought back, but it will only be for the 1,000-year reign, and it will be for primarily thank offerings. Because Christ, he gave the sin offering upon the cross, the ultimate one. Thus saith the Lord, if ye can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my ministers. Now God has done this before. He's saying that it's so certain that that these things will come to pass that it's like as the sun coming up. If the sun doesn't arise tomorrow, then you can say that these promises could be broken, but it will certainly rise. As the host of heaven cannot be numbered, neither the sand of the sea measured, so will I multiply the seed of David my servant, and the Levites that minister unto me. Moreover, the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah, saying, considerest thou not what this people have spoken, saying, the two families which the Lord hath chosen, Benjamin and Judah, he hath even cast them off? Because they're thinking that he also cast off the other tribes, and that was probably the word going around. That was the thoughts of the people. Well, God's just doing away with his people. Well, he hasn't done away with even the northern kingdom. He hasn't done away with any of them. It's just for a time, they're scattered. He hath even cast them off. Thus they have despised my people, that they should be no more a nation before them. Thus saith the Lord, if my covenant be not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth, then will I cast away the seed of Jacob and David my servant, so that I will not take any of his seed to be rulers over the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. For I will cause their captivity to return. They will return, all of them, and have mercy on them. Now we're coming up on chapter 34, another instance in which Jeremiah finds himself prophesying unto the king Zedekiah. The word which came unto Jeremiah from the Lord when Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all his army, and all the kingdoms of the earth of his dominion, and all the people fought against Jerusalem and against all the cities thereof, saying, thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, go and speak to Zedekiah, king of Judah, and tell him, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will give this city into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall burn it with fire. Zedekiah is told that the city shall be taken, and that he shall die captive, but he shall die a natural death. It is better to live and die penitent in a prison in good relation with God than to live and die impenitent in a palace. Totally agree. But Zedekiah, he had some awful things happen to him because he was so hard-headed right here, and he rejects Jeremiah's word. It's more of he fears the people than he's really wanting to reject. He's kind of wanting to do what Jeremiah says and what the Lord is saying, but he also fears the people, and that gets him in all kinds of trouble. They put his eyes out, they kill his sons right before. It's a terrible thing. And thou shalt not escape out of his hand, but shalt surely be taken and delivered into his hand. And thine eyes shall behold the eyes of the king of Babylon, and he shall speak with thee mouth to mouth, and thou shalt go to Babylon. Now, many may see a significance in Jeremiah mentioning his eyes right there, but he also mentions his mouth and nothing. All that Jeremiah is saying, which is quite imposing in itself, is that you will stand directly in front of this man attacking us. Quite a fearful statement. Yet hear the word of the Lord, O Zedekiah, king of Judah. Thus saith the Lord of thee, thou shalt not die by the sword, but thou shalt die in peace, and with the burnings of thy fathers, meaning incense burnings, how they would burn incense. The former kings which were before thee, so shall they burn odors for thee. And they will lament thee, saying, Ah, Lord, for I have pronounced the word, saith the Lord. Now, just for a quick note on the Jewish burial customs, some of which are still held to this day by them. Burnings of thy fathers, spices and perfumes were burnt as a mark of honor at the burial of kings and persons of high rank, and this is the burning here referred to. The Hebrews never adopted the practice of burial by cremation. Still to this day, I believe they frown on cremation, and for the most part embalm their dead after the manner of Egypt. Now, I don't have an opinion on cremation or embalming, whatever, one or the other. I would prefer to be embalmed myself, but I believe that for a Christian, there's all types of Christians that are burnt alive and have died martyrdom, being burnt at the stake and all. So we'll have glorified bodies in the kingdom. So I'm not too concerned about what happens to this one. This one is already set on death. That's the way I view it. Then Jeremiah the prophet spake all these words unto Zedekiah king of Judah and Jerusalem, when the king of Babylon's army fought against Jerusalem and against all the cities of Judah that were left, against Lachish and against Azekah. Right here's Jerusalem, and they're also fighting against these other cities. For these defense cities remained of the cities of Judah. Now Lachish was actually a very well fortified city, quite difficult for anyone to take, as was this city of Azekah, which is probably the reason why it's these three, and which is mentioned still putting up a fight against Nebuchadnezzar, because they were probably very well fortified. Azekah, less conspicuous in history, was also in the Shephelah region, and is named with other cities in Joshua 10. It was also fortified by Rehoboam. Upon the split between the kingdoms, Rehoboam built up Azekah, and probably to defend against the northern kingdom, because there was a lot of war happening at that time. But it is believed also to be near the region where David fought Goliath. This is Azekah. Now see what happens next, and you'll start to see the attitude of the government of the people at that time. This is the word that came unto Jeremiah from the Lord, after that the king Zedekiah had made a covenant with all the people, as well as the Lord, as we'll learn. So he's making this covenant. They even make sacrifices for this covenant, which were at Jerusalem, to proclaim liberty unto them, that every man should let his manservant and every man his maidservant, being a Hebrew or Hebrewess, go free, that none should serve himself of them, to wit, of a Jew his brother. So all of those in whom were serving a Jew, all the Jews or Jewesses in whom were serving other Jews because they probably owed them a debt or something like that, all of those in whom were doing that, they were allowed to be set free. The Israelites were not allowed to detain their brethren of the Hebrew race in perpetual bondage, but were required to let them go after serving 6 years. On the 7th year, you had to let them go. No matter how large the debt was, they had to be set free. This law had, it seems, fallen into disuse. But King Zedekiah, upon the approach of the Chaldean army, whether from religious motives or to employ the men who were set free in the service of the war, engaged the people in a covenant to act conformably to the law. Now, those are the two possible reasons right there, and I would believe the latter very, very much, because here this army is attacking, and Zedekiah is wanting to enlarge the army and the soldiers within it. So, yeah, let everyone go free, and that way we can have more of a defense. But no sooner were their fears abated by the retreat of the Chaldeans. Whenever the Egyptians approached, they lift the siege for just a while. But no sooner were their fears abated, in defiance of every principle of religion, honor, and humanity, they imposed the yoke of servitude anew upon those unhappy persons. Now when all the princes and all the people which had entered into the covenant heard that every one should let his manservant and every one his maidservant go free, that none should serve themselves of them any more, then they obeyed and let them go. But afterward they turned and caused the servants and the handmaids whom they had let go free to return, and brought them into subjection for servants and for handmaids. Now listen to how the Lord responds. Therefore the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah from the Lord, saying, Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, I made a covenant with your fathers in the day that I brought them forth out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondmen, saying, At the end of 7 years let ye go, every man his brother, a Hebrew, which hath been sold unto thee, and when he hath served thee 6 years, thou shalt let him go free from thee. But your fathers hearkened not unto me, neither inclined their ear. And ye were now turned, and had done right in my sight, in proclaiming liberty every man to his neighbor. And ye had made a covenant before me in the house which is called by my name. Now it's important to slow down right here in order to see fully in a few more details what has happened with this making a covenant with the Lord on this behalf. It was not merely that the king had issued an edict or that judges had given their decisions in accordance with the old law, but princes and people had met together in the courts of the temple itself, Solomon's temple, and there in the presence of Jehovah had entered into this covenant, as did their descendants afterwards in the days of Nehemiah. Now that's important to know for what's about to come up. But ye turned and polluted my name, and caused every man his servant and every man his handmaid, whom ye had set at liberty at their pleasure, to return, and brought them into subjection to be unto you for servants and for handmaids. Therefore thus saith the Lord, Ye have not hearkened unto me in proclaiming liberty, every one to his brother and every man to his neighbor. Behold, I proclaim a liberty for you, saith the Lord, to the sword, to the pestilence, and to the famine, and I will make you to be removed into the kingdoms of the earth. Now that's very strong language. As he says, I'll give you liberty. And now you are going to go into even worse than just servitude, is what he's telling them. Now listen to this. And I will give the men that have transgressed my covenant, which have not performed the words of the covenant which they had made before me, when they cut the calf in twain. Very important right there. That was the way that they made the covenant with the Lord. They cut this calf in two, and they walked in between and passed between the parts thereof. They did that. We'll come to that right here in a second. The princes of Judah and the princes of Jerusalem, the eunuchs and the priests, and all the people of the land which passed between the parts of the calf. I will even give them into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life, and their dead bodies shall be for meat unto the fowls of the heaven, and to the beasts of the earth. And Zedekiah, king of Judah, and his princes I will give into the hand of their enemies, and into the hand of them that seek their life, and into the hand of the king of Babylon's army, which are gone up from you. So once again, let's come back to this calf being split, and then them walking in between, making this covenant. Once again, this has symbolism in it. Assenting to the solemn, this was assenting to the solemn and awful imprecation. They're basically saying, let us, in like manner as this calf, if we do not perform what we now promise, be cut in pieces. That's what they're saying. Let us be as this calf, O Lord, and you cut us asunder if we do not keep this covenant, which they just broke. And the Lord says that their dead bodies shall be for meat, for the birds. This takes its place as the extremest penalty of transgressions. Behold, I will command, saith the Lord, and cause them who just lifted the siege, I will cause them to return to this city, and they shall fight against it, and take it, and burn it with fire. And I will make the cities of Judah a desolation without a habitation. I believe that the Lord had Nebuchadnezzar lift that siege, in part, I believe. Now, this is just my theory, but I believe that he had them lift that siege in order to test this covenant that they had made. Now, were you genuinely wanting to let these captives or these servants go free? Or were you just doing it because you wanted more of a defense for your walls? Did you have a real heart to do it or not? And they proved themselves wrong. Now he's saying, okay, now I'm going to bring Nebuchadnezzar back. And my friends, it is on that note that we will end this study. We see that they have just gotten worse. And now the situation is as dire as it's ever been. It's only escalated and angering the Lord. And so, no wonder captivity is coming to these people. We're going to leave off right there, though. Lord willing, we're going to be getting into Jeremiah 35 very soon. God of peace, love, and mercy be with you. Amen.